So where does my story begin? I moved from Arkansas to Florida back in, I believe it was either 2003 or 2004. And I remember on the weekends, my mom and I used to walk around town, mostly down in the River District, looking at yard sales. And I remember one day, I believe this is it was back in 2004. I had some cash on me, and it was a Saturday morning, and we had gone to a yard sale, and I seen a camera and some film. And I was a part of the film club at school, so I was already quite familiar with film photography, but I didn't have a camera of my own. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna buy this camera. It was a Canon Rebel X. It was one of Canon's last film cameras, but it was also one of the first that used the EF, the autofocus system as part of the EOS ecosystem. So I bought it, and the EF 50mm 1.8, the original Nifty 50, and there was some film with it. There was some Ilford HP 5400, which is my favorite film stock of all time, and I bought some Kodak Tri-X with it. Most of this film had been expired by years. It was still in the little cardboard box, but it had been expired for, years prior to me actually buying it. But that's fine. Expired film, especially black and white film stock, you can use it almost a decade after expiration, and it is still absolutely beautiful. Color film stock, you're kind of limited unless you keep it in the freezer. You can get by for a few years after expiration, but you try to want to use it. But I bought the Rebel X, and I bought the 50mm. That was the only lens I had. I used to just walk around town taking pictures. I didn't have access at home to any type of like red or dark room to develop my own film, so I used to take it to school, and I would develop it at school. And the film teacher at school, she always wanted to see my work after I developed it. She was like, "You have a great eye for photography." But fast forward a couple years later, 2006, I joined the Marine Corps. Photography kind of drifted away from my mind. I started to focus on, do I want to make a career out of this, out of the military? My first duty station, I was stationed in Japan. And I was over there for a little while before I ended up having my camera shipped over. And I bought another camera as well. Unfortunately, because of the language barrier, I was limited on the talent that I had to shoot with, like in terms of like finding models to work with. I did end up making really good friends with some of the Japanese locals, and they introduced me to some people, and we would, shoot portraits of their wives, their husbands, their kids, things like that. It was an amazing time. I got to go to Philippines, Thailand, Korea, Bangladesh. Very fortunate to be able to shoot throughout quite a bit of the Southeast area region, or the Southeast Asia region, I'm sorry. And fast forward a couple years, it's time to move back stateside. So I end up rotating to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. I was stationed in North Carolina for a couple years. I made some pretty good friends there very quickly. Having access to talent and models obviously was much, much easier because there was not that language barrier. So I made a lot of friends, worked with a lot of great people, and there was a Marine in my unit. His wife was a photographer, and I guess maybe he had mentioned to her something about that I enjoyed photography. She reached out to me one day. It was on a Friday. I remember it was Friday afternoon, and she asked me if I wanted to shoot a wedding with her. I'd never shot a wedding before. She asked if I wanted to shoot a wedding with her, and I said, yeah, absolutely. When? She said, tomorrow morning. Oh, sure. I didn't understand if you're a wedding photographer, you'll understand this. I didn't understand the level of like inherent stress that comes with shooting weddings. But I shot the wedding with her. It was a great time. I realized, yes, it's very stressful, but at the same time, this was actually very, very fun and I enjoyed it. There is a specific job within the Marine Corps. They're like public affairs. They're the ones who do the photography and they disseminate all of the photos and videos that you see on the websites. They make the commercials and things like that. Affectionately, we call them combat camera. Now, my job in the Marine Corps was not combat camera. I was just somebody who had a camera with me, and I have used it in combat before. So it's kind of a double play on words, if you will. But my battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Field, he caught wind of the fact that I enjoy photography, and he told me, he said, you're going to be the battalion photographer. Mind you, my unit already has photographers that are specifically, their line of work deals specifically with like shooting retirement ceremonies and you know, award ceremonies and things like that. But Lieutenant Colonel Field tells me, you're going to be my battalion photographer. And what that meant for me was I would do everything with my unit like normal. And when he needed me, he would say, go grab him. We're going to go shoot a retirement ceremony. Okay. I don't know if that kind of rubs some of the combat camera guys the wrong way. I'm not sure. I don't think so, because a lot of them, they were like, hey, you go do it. That's fine, dude. That's less stuff we got to do. But I really enjoyed it. Fast forward a little bit, my time in the Marine Corps comes to an end. I remember when I went to IPAC, which is the building where they give you all your final paperwork and stuff. One of the guys in there hands me an ice scraper. Mind you, this is in like April of 2012. Hands me an ice scraper and says, go scrape your base decal off of your vehicle. I don't know if they still do it, but back in the day, you had this little white rectangular sticker you put at the bottom left of your windshield. That's how they identified you as a service member, a contractor, retired, you know, whatever the case is. It was color coded. So I remember scraping my decal off, and I was so excited that this is it. I'm finally free. I get to start my actual adult life as a free person. So I get all my paperwork, a handshake, you know, the thank you for your service, all that fun stuff. So I drive off base. Reality, mind you, still has not set in. I'm excited. I'm leaving base. When you leave the front gate of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, one of the first establishments is a very fine establishment. I don't know if it's still there. Is a strip club called Driftwoods. That's sarcasm. Driftwoods was a very, very, very nasty strip club. The only time I ever went there was to rescue Marines who were about to find themselves in jail. So I pull into the parking lot at Driftwoods, and very quickly reality hits. What do you want to do with your life? My mom had moved from Florida to California. So I'm closest to Florida. If I move to Florida, I have all of my friends there, but I don't have any family, literally no family. I don't know anybody in the job market, so I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I can move out, conversely, I can move out to California, where my mom is out there, and my grandma is out there. Outside of that, I have no family there. I have no friends there, and that job market out there is not something that you want to be a part of. Or do I kind of meet in the middle and go back to Arkansas, to where I have friends, I have family, and I know quite a few people within the I'm not going to have an issue getting a job, basically. So I do that. I make up my mind. I'm going back to Arkansas. From Jacksonville, North Carolina, I drive down to Wilmington, jump on I-40. The only time I stop from Wilmington to Little Rock is to get fuel. I don't remember how many times I fueled. I didn't stop to rest. I didn't stop to go into a steakhouse and get a steak. I picked up food at the gas station and I booked it back to Arkansas. So from the time I get out of the Marine Corps to the time I actually join the Army was just a couple of months. I realized I'm not reintegrating into society properly, like the way that most people do. And I start kind of falling into a slump of depression. I think to myself, maybe what I need, besides a swift kick in the ass, is to join the Army. There is local units, and I can find that brotherhood and that structure. And I learned very quickly it was the exact opposite of that. I'm very grateful for the friends that I made along the way in the Army. As a whole, I absolutely hated the experience. There was very little that I enjoyed about it besides, deployments. I did make some great friends along the way. A few of them I still communicate with. For the most part, I don't. But I had become so jaded and depressed in life. I was in just a horrendously toxic relationship at the time. I felt trapped. I couldn't leave. At the time, I felt bad for it. Looking back on it, I don't. I started saving up money for when I was eventually going to leave her and kind of, bounce out and kind of get my own place. We had a house together and get my own place. And so I started saving up money. So when the time came that I left her, I wasn't in a situation financially where I was struggling. It was, I'm out. And it literally happened that fast. A few months later, or let me go back a little bit actually. In that relationship, obviously I'm unhappy, I'm depressed because of the relationship. I'm depressed because of the fact that I joined the Army, and this is easily one of the worst decisions that I've ever made. And I am a man who has made many, many terrible decisions in my life. When I went to Afghanistan in 2014, I didn't even take my camera with me. I was so just burnt out in life. I didn't even take my camera with me. The photos that I have of Afghanistan, and some of them are pretty good, they were all taken with my phone. I honestly, I started having really bad thoughts, those kind of thoughts, and I was just ready to check out. The time came around for re-enlistment in the Army. Absolutely not. I get out completely. Then I end up leaving my ex. And so I stay in Central Arkansas. I start talking to someone. Things happen very quickly, and I find out I'm going to be a father. I was terrified. I was nervous. I was scared, but I was so excited. Her mother and I were together unhappily for a couple of years, and I would say that today we're amicable. We will both admit that we weren't made for each other. We weren't meant for each other. So I don't think there's any hard feelings on either of our end. But we can fast forward a little bit. Meet somebody on Facebook. She's a photographer. She's kind of from South Central Arkansas. Katie. Start hanging out. Start dating. All that good stuff. We're shooting weddings. We're taking our cameras basically everywhere we go. Um, it was a great time, and many, many memories were made. And I don't think either one of us will deny that. But years down the road, we go our separate ways. Such is life. Um, she taught me a lot about photography. I would like to think I taught her a bit about photography as well. Like I said, we made many memories, but life happens. And so we both move on. We can fast forward now a couple of more years. I'm still shooting weddings. As a matter of fact, in terms of wedding photography, at this point, I am going stronger than ever. A certain part of me, and this is probably within like the late 2022 time frame, something starts pulling in my mind and it says, hey, I think it's time for a change. Okay. I start focusing more on video. I think that was what I needed to bring me completely out of that slump that I found myself in for a few years. Was just a change. Hey, you know what? You focus so much on photo, try focusing a bit on video. Okay? Right away, I fell in love with it. It's a whole different ballgame than photography. It really is. So I'm focusing on video. Katie and I had broken up, not long ago at this point. And I kind of start finding myself falling back into that slump of kind of just being fed up with life. I found out there was a lady that I had actually met one time in Japan, and I met her because she beat the absolute hell out of my roommate. He got drunk and got handsy with her, and she physically showed him, don't be a pig, basically. Years later, on Facebook, we reconnect. Come to find out, she doesn't live all that far from me. Now, when I say she doesn't live all that far, because I have a CDL, and at the time, I was driving over the road, and as a truck driver, 5.5 hours, that's a couple miles down the road. So I was going to where the area that she was living, she was about 5.5 hours away. And I would always book loads to take me into that area, even knowing that it is a dead zone for freight coming out. So I knew that I was losing money by going to see her, but at the same time, it absolutely did not matter. It was absolutely incredible. We fast forward some time, we decide to move in together. She moves to Arkansas, and I guess you can say in terms of relationship, the rest is history. She's kind of been poking around a little bit about photography, and I would absolutely love to teach her what I know. As a photographer, outside of shooting photos, one of my biggest tasks in life is to teach the newer generation of photographers. And she is the love of my life, and she is somewhat unfamiliar with photography. So in my mind, I consider her that next generation of photographers. So, I look forward to teaching her everything I know. She still has access to my my Canon, my 5D Mark IVs. She has access to all my gear, lenses, lighting, all that stuff. I really look forward to teaching her. So I guess the final question is, what does the future hold for me in terms of photography? I take pride on surrounding myself with a group of photographers who are always as willing and ready to teach someone as that new photographer is willing to listen and learn. Sadly, especially in Central Arkansas, there's a big trend of up and coming photographers, those that are more inexperienced and, they don't feel like, oh, why would I listen to this guy? He's old. He doesn't understand the trend of photography. And they say the same thing about the, female photographers. That is something that does make us old heads, if you will, quite jaded. I don't think I've ever been to the point where I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just not going to teach you. Just because, if you don't think that you need to know anything, you think that you know everything, I'm going to let you basically find out the hard way. I've never been to that point. Like I said, I kind of pride myself on surrounding myself with people who definitely enjoy giving back to the photography community. There are a few photographers that I can think of specifically, but one really sticks out in my mind, and I would be remiss if I did not thank her properly, and that's Julie Gaylor. She is a staple in the community, the photography community, not only of Arkansas, but throughout the land. It really is an honor and privilege having access to pick someone's brain, someone of the caliber of her, and having access to her because she is local. It's such an honor. And she gives back to the photography community so much. This is mostly through education. Her knowledge, I don't even know how long she's been shooting, but her knowledge is absolutely beyond reproach. She is fantastic as a photographer, but she is also a very kind human because she does have that knowledge, but she doesn't gatekeep it. She's always ready to give back, always ready to give back. And as seasoned photographers, that is part of our job. We go out, we shoot photos, we shoot video, film, whatever. But that's on the front side. On the back side is when you have people reach out afterwards and say, I really love that photo you just posted. I want to try to find an editing style, somewhat close to that. Or I love how you edit. How do you do it? You have to be willing to give back. I'm not saying teach them exactly how you edit. Obviously, your editing style makes you unique. But when people within the photography community give back and they're helping, they're teaching, they're educating, it makes the community a much greater place. You make some great friends and family along the way. So I think in terms of what the future holds for me, it's just teaching, educating, helping the next generation get to the point where they feel comfortable teaching others. And it's a constant evolution of helping. So that's pretty much my story. We started in 2004 and I'm here now and ready to see what the future holds. I really am.